All right, so let's get the party started. Hi, everybody. We're on Instagram and Facebook at the same time.
Hi, everybody.
This is Tony Escamilla with Via in Home Inspections. Did I say your name right?
Yeah, Via Home Inspections.
Via Home Inspections, right?
Yes.
The Escamilla part I wanted.
Escamilla.
Yes. Okay. Good. Perfect. So we're going to be sitting down with Tony today because general home inspections are vital process to the due diligence period, right? When buying a home.
Absolutely.
When buying a home, when selling a home, it's really important to know. Basically, I call it what the health of the home is. You know,
Yes.
that's kind of how I look at it, and that's how I phrase it to buyers and sellers. And often people go into the experience thinking, well, I'm going to know exactly how the home is now, and even a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, and that's not necessarily the case.
That's not necessarily the case. Yeah, it is very much, like you said, a general thing. The health of the home. I equate it to when you go to the doctor and you get a physical.
Yeah.
The doctor's going to do a general physical on you, and then if something pops up, if you have high blood pressure, sugar, that kind of stuff, they're going to send you to see a specialist. And the home inspection is the same way. If there is something that pops up, electrical, plumbing, things like that, we're going to do our best to see as much as we can, whatever is visible, but anything beyond that, we're going to have to say, hey, you need to bring in an electrician or you need to bring in a plumber. And sometimes the buyers, particularly if they're first-time buyers, they don't know the process.
Right.
And so there tends to be some misunderstandings.
Yeah. So what are some ways that buyers can avoid those misunderstandings going in?
I have on my website or when I book an inspection, I always send out an email to the buyers giving them tips on what they can do to understand the process. And by understanding, it is understanding what the home inspection covers and what it doesn't, more importantly.
Right.
Because like I said, it's a general inspection, and if you understand going in that we're not going to be able to see everything.
Yeah.
For example, we don't move furniture.
Right. This is really important.
We don't move appliances.
Yeah.
So we can't see behind the appliances, underneath the appliances.
You don't pull out the fridge?
No.
Really?
No. But you'd be amazed because sometimes there might be a leak at the water line that connects to the ice maker, which is something that we can't see because we're not pulling out the fridge.
Now, why not? Why not pull? I mean, there's got to be a reason why you don't pull the fridge.
There's a lot of reasons why we don't do that. Primarily it's because if we damage anything, we're liable.
You break it, you pay for it?
You break it, you pay for it. And guess what? Our insurance doesn't cover us for that.
Oh, okay.
And all home inspectors are the same way. So if you break something purposely, it's not covered. If there's an accident,
who breaks something purposely?
Well, by pulling something out.
Oh, okay.
You can damage the flooring, for example.
I see. Okay.
You can cause, if you're pulling out a stove, for example, you can cause a leak.
Okay.
If the gas line is not properly secured, you can actually cause a leak.
Oh, interesting.
And so we try as much as we can. We try to peek behind appliances, behind furniture, but there are limitations to a home inspection.
Exactly.
And I try to tell people before the inspection that this is what we do, but this is what we can't do.
Right.
And we'll be happy to come back even during the final walkthrough once all the furniture is moved, all the appliances are moved, and give it a once over to see those areas that we weren't able to see.
Right. So that also applies to staged homes, correct?
Yes.
So when homes are staged, which I'm always going to advocate for staging your home. You will definitely get, you'll bring the best buyers, you'll bring the best price, always. But with that comes, well, shoot, there was a rug over this electrical outlet in the floor.
In the floor,
and
exactly.
The inspector didn't know, didn't see it, didn't test it, and oops, it actually doesn't work.
I've actually had that happen.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. I've had a couple of outlets behind couches. They had the sectional couches, a couple of outlets behind the couches that weren't working, but we couldn't reach them because there was no way that we could move the couches. So it does happen, and there are limitations, and so we try to explain those things.
You come back, like at final walkthrough, 3 days before closing, you can come back and retest.
We try to come back. If you want us to come back, we'll come back. We also send our clients about 2 weeks after, more or less, after they get their report, an email saying, hey, your final walkthrough's coming. Here's a nice checklist that you can use during your final walkthrough. If you'd like us to come and do the walkthrough with you, we'll come and do the walkthrough with you. But if you don't, here's a nice little checklist.
Now, what percentage of buyers actually have you come back for final walkthrough? Because I've never seen you.
Zero. It's I offer it. We also offer when we send the report out. We also offer a day later after they get the report, saying, "Hey, now that you've had time to read your report, let's set up a conference call or a Zoom call." And that I do get a few, but it's less than 10% of people who take me up on that.
Wow.
And,
guys, take him up on coming back at final walkthrough and follow up. Like, follow up with questions. That's gonna.
It's one of these things that will avoid problems, because once you close escrow, it's yours. You get the keys, you move in. If you find something after you move in, it's yours.
Right.
And we get I joke about this because it's typically the realtor who gets the first phone call when something goes wrong. Buyer moves into the house and they found something, and like we had one recently.
Oh, you and
me? Yes.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, they find something, and it was something that we couldn't see. And it's one of those things that maybe during the final walkthrough it could have been caught, or there was that limitation of what can and can't be done. And so at the inspection, when we get to the inspection, we will tell them, hey, listen, this is what the inspection is going to look like. We're going to do all of the exterior, we're going to climb on the roof, we're going to open up the electrical panel, we're going to do this, and then we're going to go inside and we're going to look at everything that's visible. But here's what we can't do. We don't move furniture. Occasionally, for example, there is a attic access that's inside the closet, bedroom closet, or the crawl space access. And the closet is filled from top to bottom. I mean, just completely filled.
Porterhouse.
Yeah. And so we ask that somebody move things, but occasionally they don't want to, or nobody feels comfortable moving things in the closet so that nothing falls or breaks, or you have to put it back. And so we end up having to come back. Or we just can't get inside the attic. And that causes frustration for everybody, because everybody now, transactions are moving really fast.
Yeah.
And so having to come back slows everything down.
It's so true. The one that I want to talk about that we just dealt with is appliances. Everyone thinks, oh, well, they are going to inspect the appliance, right? So you should know whether or not the ice maker works, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, appliances, in general, most 99% of inspectors go based on industry standards.
Okay.
They're published industry standards of what we inspect and what we don't. We try to go above and beyond as much as possible, but certain things that aren't covered are freestanding appliances. The appliances that seller is typically going to take with them most of the time. They're going to take the refrigerator with them. They're going to take maybe the stove.
Not on my deals? No,
Yeah.
exactly. No, I'm writing those into the contract.
Yeah. Now,
I mean, if they're good,
Now, appliances that are built in, i.e. dishwashers.
Okay.
They're built in. They're literally screwed into the cabinet. Appliances, microwaves. The range fan over the range. Built-in cooktops, things like that. Those things we do. Inspect.
Okay.
It's just the freestanding ones.
Oh, that's very interesting. Washer dryers, all that kind of
Washer dryers, we just assume that they're going to leave.
Oh.
So. Now, on occasion, if you tell us, hey, appliance is staying, can you check it out?
Yeah.
We'll make the extra effort to check it out thoroughly. But otherwise, we just assume this is part of our regular pattern of industry standards, and we won't inspect.
Okay, interesting. What are some other things that people think are going to be inspected, but maybe it's a little difficult to grade? Like, for instance, we were talking before, wiring. I mean, do you have X-ray vision? I'm just wondering.
I'm Superman.
Yeah, exactly.
Wiring.
And plumbing.
We get and plumbing. Wiring in particular, we get the occasional phone call after the buyer moves in, and They brought an electrician to do some remodeling, and the electrician says, "Oh, your electrical panel is not up to code. It needs to be replaced."
Yeah.
And what the misunderstanding is that up to code means whatever the code was in place at the time that the panel was installed. So if that's a 1950s house,
Right.
the codes in 1950 applied to that electrical panel, not the codes today. And so I get a few phone calls about that and about plumbing. It's not up to code. Well,
Right.
Over the last 70 years, there has been upgrades to the panel. There's been other work. We don't know when that work was done. We don't know what the codes were at that time.
Right.
And so what we do inside the electrical panel is we're looking for obvious safety hazards.
Right.
Breakers.
Which would be?
Breakers that are oversized.
Right. Okay.
The wires are too thin for the size of the breaker. So if there's a problem with that circuit, the breaker won't shut off in time, and it can cause a fire.
Ooh.
Attaching more than one circuit to a breaker. Sometimes there's 3 circuits attached to one breaker.
Right.
And
right.
so we're looking for things like that. We're looking for grounding. We're looking for signs of scorching, signs of melting on the wiring.
Obvious health and safety concerns.
Obvious
Exactly. Health and safety concerns.
But not code.
Not code, right?
Not code.
Today's
Yes.
code. I mean, especially if it's not brand new construction, it's going to be a variety of different, codes from over the years.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
That's so interesting. Actually, so I have a story. A dear client of mine we had a very thorough home inspection, and there was a brand new water heater that was installed. And after the fact, a plumber came and he looked at the new water heater, how it was installed, and he said, "Whoever the home inspector was on this should be in jail." And I was like,
wow! It wasn't me, right?
No, it totally was not you. It was not you.
Okay.
No, but I was just like, wow, that is just, there's a lot of that kind of like Monday morning quarterbacking that goes on.
There
right?
is. I got one. I get one. Here's a very typical scenario. We do our home inspection. We call out certain things. Everything closes. Everybody's fine. Buyer moves in, and then gas company comes to turn on the utilities. Gas company says, "We're not turning on the utilities because we found a gas leak, or we found something else." And so you get the first phone call, always.
Yes.
And then I get the phone call, and a lot of the times it's, okay, there was a gas leak at a shutoff valve behind the washer and dryer.
Okay.
That now have been taken by the seller, so
right.
we couldn't see it.
Right.
And now people are freaking out. Or at a water heater, for example, there was something wrong with a water heater. I had one time where water heater was working perfectly fine when we were there.
Yeah.
Gas company came. They wouldn't turn it on because there was some internal problem with the water heater. So we got a plumber to go out there. A friend of mine who's a plumber. And he says, "Look, this is an internal problem with the water heater. There's no way you could have seen that. It was an internal problem.
Okay.
Gas company wouldn't turn it on. Now everybody's freaking out because they're moving in. They have no hot water. They have no heat. They have nothing, and now it's an emergency."
Right.
And at least in one case, it was something that we just couldn't see because, again, it was the appliances.
Right.
So that one is very typical.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I had a phone call on something similar like 2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the gas company. Yeah.
So, I mean, what is the recourse if it is something that I'm not saying you, but like another inspector, if they missed it, what happens? Like something that should have been very, very obvious.
If
like
it's something that's very, very obvious and the inspector should have seen it, you always want to contact the inspector and try to work something out.
Right.
Most inspectors are going to want to work something out because at the end of the day, at least for us, my biggest priority is always making sure that the buyer, that our client is happy, that the realtor is happy.
Yes, that's very important.
Exactly. It doesn't behoove anybody to piss everybody off.
No.
So we'll try, and it happens. I had one many years ago where I missed something. In 23 years of doing this, I can count them on one hand.
Oh, wow.
And I just flat out missed it.
Okay.
And so when I realized that, we took care of it.
Right.
And in bad cases, worst case scenario, knock on wood, hasn't happened.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that your inspector is insured.
Okay.
So there are a lot of inspectors out there right now who are working home inspection part-time. We had a big boom over the last few years in real estate.
Yeah.
So there was a big demand for home inspection. So there was an increase in new home inspectors that came into the market. And, hey, they're nice guys. I know a lot of them throughout the country. But a lot of these guys work part-time. And not to say that they're not going to do a good inspection, but you want to make sure that you speak with your inspector before the home inspection. Talk to them, see what their personality is like. There's nothing worse than having an inspector who you hired and you're paying, and they have a chip on their shoulder when they get there.
Oh, yeah.
They have to have a good personality. They have to be able to deliver the information properly. But
you mean Chicken Little?
Yeah, exactly.
The sky's falling. This is a tinderbox.
The sky's falling. Yeah, there's a crack in the wall. Oh my God! You need to,
this thing's coming down.
It's coming down. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Red tag it.
Yeah.
So and that speaks to a lack of experience.
Right.
But worst case scenario, you want to make sure before you do your inspection that your inspector is insured.
Yes.
Knock on wood, like I said, you never want that scenario to ever happen. I've never had it happen, but.
Do they have to display a license number along with their insurance or something like? How do we find out if they're insured? How do we find that out?
You have to ask.
Okay.
You have to ask. The one thing about home inspectors in California, there is no licensing requirement. There is no licensing requirement.
What?
Anybody can say they're a home inspector, and they're a home inspector. So there is no requirements for education, experience. Now there are industry trade associations like the National Association of Certified Home Inspectors, which I'm a part of, that have minimum educational standards, and they have quite a bit of educational requirements, experience. So you want to ask before you're inspecting. Check them out, check their websites out, and see what their qualifications are. Call and ask. I mean, this is somebody you are entrusting with one of the biggest purchases in your life. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
It takes 10 minutes to make that phone call and say, hey, Mr. Inspector, what are your qualifications? How long have you been doing this? Do you have insurance? Can you send me a copy of your certificate?
Right.
That way going in that the inspector is going to have your back.
Wow. Send me a copy of your certificate.
Yes.
I love that.
And we literally have it in our computer. We could email it in 5 seconds, and anybody who wants to see it. The majority of people don't, honestly.
No, of course.
But like I said, you're making that kind of investment.
Yeah, that's the due diligence just on your inspector.
That's just on the inspector.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, no, but it does make sense. Okay, so I want to talk about what do you guys, what are you covering? You're looking at roof, you're looking at foundation. Like, what do we cover for the general home inspection?
So the general home inspection is going to cover all of the major systems of the house. The 5 major systems of any house is going to be the roof, the foundation, the plumbing, the electrical system, and the heating and air conditioning system.
Okay.
So the way that we start our inspections, we start on the outside of the house, and we literally walk around the house inch by inch, looking at the roof eaves, looking at the paint, looking at the doors, the windows, the vegetation, the drainage from the outside. Work all the way around, open up the electrical panel, check everything out, condenser unit for the air conditioner. Go all the way around the house, we get on the roof, we check out the roof, and then we come down and we'll check out the garage, and then we'll work our way inside and start looking for water heaters, furnaces. Sometimes we'll leave them to the end because they're in the attic. And we literally go room by room and checking windows and doorknobs. But this is where one of the limitations is also, is that we can't check every outlet, which we talked about, because there's furniture. So if there's an outlet that's visible, we'll plug our tester in there. And we can't open all doors and windows. Sometimes the window, there's a lot of furniture and you can't reach all of the windows.
Yeah.
So we do our best to open all doors and windows, get a feel for what they look, overall what they are.
Right.
We run water in every single one of the plumbing fixtures in the house. We turn on water at all the sinks, flush all the toilets, all the showers, tubs,
Run the
that
dishwasher.
kind of stuff. Run the dishwasher, the garbage disposal, operate the appliances that we're going to operate. And then if it has a crawl space, then at the end we'll either crawl in or we'll send a robot underneath.
Okay, this is when I kind of like fell in love with Tony because he brought out his, what I called the Mars rover.
That's exactly what it looks like.
The little Mars rover robot with a camera on it, and it goes underneath. It's like a Tonka truck with the joystick, and he was able to control it, and it was incredible. Like,
it's a cool adult toy.
It's very cool, right?
I play with it at home even when I'm not inspecting.
Yeah, and you don't have to get dirty. You don't have to get spiders in your face.
Yeah, no, we try to go in as much as possible into the crawl spaces when it's accessible. Sometimes there's very little space down there.
Yeah.
And we never want to be the ones that put, and I've seen other reports that say, hey, this area was not accessible. And so we didn't inspect it. This area was not accessible. With the technology today, there's no need to say something like that. All I need is 7 inches in height, and we can send the robot in. He can do video, do photography, and the same thing holds true with the roofs. The roof, if it's an old tile roof, or if the roof is worn out, we'll send a drone up in the air. And,
I love it.
and
All the bells and whistles.
Take videos. That way you get we try to provide the most thorough inspection, even with the limitations that we do have, the most thorough inspection.
Awesome. Yeah. Is it extra for all those fun bells and whistles, or is that just part of your package?
That's part of the package.
Oh, fantastic.
Everything comes with the package. Now, the other thing that are extras is, if you want the sewer line scoped out, we'll stick a camera in the sewer line and take it all the way out to the street to look for roots, damage to the sewer line. We also do mold inspection, so if there is any signs of any moisture, any visible, mold, then we'll recommend, hey, you might want to have a mold inspection.
Now, when you say mold inspection, are you talking about just running your moisture meter, or are you talking about like?
No, yeah. So during the inspection, we have two different phases of moisture detection and moisture intrusion. During the inspection, if we see, for example, a stain on the ceiling or stain on the wall, we're going to check it with a thermal camera. We're going to check it with a moisture meter to see if there's something coming through.
Okay.
Now, we can also do a more in-depth scan of the entire house, and that's extra. But during the normal inspection, it's whatever is visible. And as far as mold goes, it's if we find something that we think that might have caused mold, or if we see any staining on the wall that's kind of grayish, blackish, anything like that that might look like mold, then we'll recommend mold inspection. So what that includes is that yes, we'll do the moisture detection. And we'll set up the equipment to sample the air in that particular room for mold spores. If there is visible mold on the walls, then we'll take a sample of that from the walls. Everything goes to the lab. The lab report comes back and says yay or nay, you do have mold or you have little mold, or, and then you go from there.
Okay, got it. But it sounds like you don't do termite.
Termite, no.
Okay.
Technically, yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no.
It's a yes and a no.
One of the things that the limitations that we have is that a termite inspection here in California, other states are different. Here in California, termite inspection can only be done by a licensed pest control company.
Okay.
So even though I'm a contractor, and even though I know it's termite droppings,
because it looks like coffee grounds.
It looks like coffee grounds, exactly. I can see the damage on the wood sometimes. I will put on the report, hey, we saw termite-like activity. We'll take pictures of it, we'll put it on the report, but then we have, it's one of those things like the general physical.
Right.
We recommend that you get a full termite inspection.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. Okay, awesome. I just want to sort of go back around because I really want to underscore, because I feel like the biggest misconception that people have is, well, the inspection report said this, and the house checked out, at this level, but you're not a mystic, right? Like, you're not a psychic. You don't happen to know when exactly.
I tell my kids I am.
You're right, yeah, exactly. But you don't know when that pipe is going to eventually, corrode more and then bust.
Yeah.
Right? Like, right now you see corrosion now, but, I mean.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think one of the misunderstandings is that our inspection is limited to the date of the inspection. This is a condition of the pipes, for example, on that day. On that day, we didn't see any leaks.
Yeah.
There was rust on the pipes. We'll call that out. But I have no idea what's going to happen 3 months from now.
Yeah.
If it's going to leak 3 months from now, if it's you're going to have a different kind of problem. One of the roof tiles, we have wind conditions here sometimes, is going to get damaged, and there's just no way for us to predict that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Cool. I think that's like the one that continues to sort of come up is like, but I see this thing now. How much longer till it's bad? And
and the other question that we get is, hey, how old is the roof?
Oh,
how much life does the roof have left in it?
Yeah.
I'm like, I really can't answer the question. I try to as best as possible. It looks like it's been there for several years, but I can't tell you exactly how long it's been there. I can't tell you how much life is left on there.
Right.
If you have a 30-year-old roof, a clay tile roof, or a cement tile roof, even though the tiles might look good and everything looks fine from the outside when we do the inspection, you have to remember that the felt paper underneath those tiles is still 30 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's no way for us to determine what, short of picking up the tiles, what condition that's in and when it might leak in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
True. I just want to see if we have any questions from folks here so far. Maybe not. I think we're just so thorough. No one has any questions.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any stories you want to tell about, things that have happened in the past, or a word of the wise? Anything along those lines you want to bring up for peeps?
We see. I joke about this. I said when I retire, I'm going to write a book. I have a collection of photos that you wouldn't believe of the craziest things I've seen. Because we inspect everywhere. I inspect everywhere from South Los Angeles to Beverly Hills to the Inland Empire, and we see some of the craziest things.
Okay, well,
it's
like
going to be
what?
a coffee table. Let me see. Coffee table book.
I'll be the judge of whether or not that should be on the coffee table.
Hoarding conditions, pot farms, stripper poles.
Okay.
I have a collection of those photos. And there's some stuff I can't mention.
Right.
I'll tell you off camera on those, but
I thought you were going to say like rodents, like dead animals.
That too.
I mean,
I try not
dead
to post
bodies.
This. No, knock on wood.
Okay.
Sorry,
I'm a little morbid.
Dead animals, but I don't post those on social media anymore because it's just I had somebody complain one time. You really shouldn't be posting that. Okay.
Really?
Right. Yeah.
Inhumane for the animals or for the people?
Yes, for the people, I guess.
Okay. That's so funny.
As far as the word of the wise, like I said, if you're a buyer or even a realtor, if you haven't worked with this particular inspection company before, call them, speak to them. If you're the buyer, call and ask to speak directly to the inspector who's going to be doing your inspection. Yeah. Not the receptionist, and say, hey, I'd like to chat with this person, and see what kind of personality they have. One of the things that that I get pushback, and as an industry we get pushback from realtors is, hey, you scared the daylights out of my buyer for something that didn't need to happen, and that happens a lot. The word alarmist comes up.
No, I think it's actually deal killer.
Deal killer,
yes. We call them deal killers.
Deal killers, yes.
There's a few inspectors locally that we know are deal killers.
Yeah, and that's happened. And I tell my guys after we do our inspection, as you know, at the end of the inspection, we'll do a verbal summary with everybody who's there. And I tell my guys, listen, these next 10 minutes are the most important part of your job. Because how you present that information, even if it's bad news sometimes, can make or break that deal. Absolutely. And we believe in educating. If there's an issue with an electrical panel, for example, like a Federal Pacific electrical panel, everybody knows what that is. It's a defective panel, and it really should be replaced.
Everybody knows? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay, it's a defective panel. Good to know.
It was a defective panel. It was
Okay.
never recalled here in the States.
Oh.
And there are thousands of them everywhere.
Wow.
And so the telltale sign for a Federal Pacific panel is that they have orange on the breakers.
Oh,
So if
okay.
you see that in your panel, check your home. If you see that in your panel, call your electrician.
This is news you can all use, guys. This is amazing. I'm loving
Yeah.
this. Keep going.
So even when we present information like that, there's a way of presenting it.
Yeah.
I've heard inspectors say, "Oh my God, this is going to cause your house to burn down."
You've heard them say that?
I have heard people say that. Now, have these panels caused fires? In the past, they have.
Yeah.
Is it going to cause a fire to your house?
Right.
Probably not. This is why you get the inspection.
Right,
So,
right.
okay, panel should be replaced. You're looking at a cost about maybe $1,500. It's not the end of the world. But it really depends on how you present that information.
Right, exactly.
And so,
I think further to that, how about foundation? Because, you know, I've been in so many homes that there is a vertical crack coming
Yes.
off of a door jamb, right? And people are like, oh my God, I see a crack. What does that mean? What
Yeah.
does that mean?
nothing. Most of the time, it means nothing.
Nothing.
Yes, I specialize on foundations.
Okay.
And most of the time, even when we find cracks on a foundation, you have to remember that there's several things that could have caused a crack in a foundation. It could have been earthquakes, like the Northridge quake. I had one just last weekend out in the San Fernando Valley. Had some cracks on the foundation. Had a lot of cracks inside the house. It looks like the house hadn't been maintained in a long time. So it very likely have been from earthquake damage. And then there were some issues with drainage on the outside where water was puddling next to the foundation, which could cause a little bit of settlement.
Right.
Now, the house is bolted. The cracks are vertical in nature. They're not very big. There was no settlement this way. There's no displacement of the foundation walls this way or that way. Is the house going anywhere? No, it's not. So
Not right now.
It's a matter of exactly until the next earthquake. Yes.
Exactly.
So it's a matter of sealing the cracks. Maybe doing a little bit of repairs to the foundation walls, and then the cracks that you see inside the house, 9 out of 10 times ends up being cosmetic.
Right.
Because the house shifted. You have to remember that we build with wood here in California, and wood is not rigid. It moves. And so occasionally, you're going to see a crack. If you start seeing a lot of cracks in particular places, then it's time to look at the foundation a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, it really depends on how you present that. I tell my guys, look, this is what we found. This is what it means. This is the potential solution. That way you have all the information without saying, oh my God, there's a crack. You need a structural engineer.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's overkill,
That's
right?
way overkill.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I've always been told horizontal cracks you want to pay a little more attention to,
Absolutely,
for sure.
yes.
Yeah, and of course any offsets. Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, if there's cracks, one of the things that we see the most out there is drainage on the exterior of the house.
Drainage issues.
Drainage issues,
Yes.
Water draining towards the foundation of the house.
Yes.
Lack of roof gutters. It's California. Nobody has roof gutters.
Well, what do they
It's
need it for? We're in a
crazy.
drought.
Because all that water from your roof when it rains needs to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And if it puddles up next to your foundation,
Yeah.
it's going to soak all the water in your foundation. Now, on a hot summertime like we're having right now, all that soil is going to dry. So what happens? It's going to shrink, and then you have the potential of settlement. And that's where you get some of those cracks. But even then, a little bit of settlement doesn't mean that the house is falling down.
Right. Yeah.
So you address the drainage issues, you install some roof gutters, and make them drain away from the foundation. Okay, it's not going to continue to settle. Problem solved.
I always say, someone said to me 20 years ago that water is nature's natural eroder, and it really is. Water, don't underestimate the power of water, especially when it comes to your home, right?
Absolutely. Whether it be roof leaks, plumbing leaks, drainage issues.
Yes.
Drainage issues, by the way, are the #1 reason you see foundation problems.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Whether it's an old foundation or a new foundation, most of the time, in my experience, it's water that causes
Yeah.
Foundation problems.
Water is, not our friend when it comes to
Yeah.
homes and construction.
Yeah.
Amazing. Anything else? I mean, this is just so fun. I'm clearly nerding out over this.
Me too. Like I mentioned before we started, I nerd out on all of this stuff. I'm constantly reading and writing about stuff. I just published something yesterday afternoon, some new stuff. But for a buyer, particularly if you've never bought a house, take a few minutes and educate yourself and do a little bit of research on what the home inspection covers, what you should be looking for. I have a checklist on my website for buyers.
Yes.
As you're going through a property with your realtor, I have a checklist that you can look at. Hey, these are the things that I should be looking at just to have a general idea of what the overall condition of the house is.
Yeah.
Most of the time, even if you have no experience in this, most of the time you can quickly take a look at the roof and say, all right, well, that looks pretty decent. Okay, you can look at the pipes in front of the house and say, okay, that looks like copper. Okay, good, plus, or that there's rust right there. Oh, okay, well, something to check off. For buyers in particular, just take a little time to understand. I know there's a lot of moving parts, particularly right now. The market is so fast. Short closing periods. But again, it's one of the biggest investments that anybody's ever going to make in their life. And it behooves you to take a few minutes to be prepared, understand the process.
Right. Exactly.
And
but also with that, know that just because something is called out, it doesn't mean the house is falling down, that that the world's ending, basically.
The majority of the inspections that we do, we're going to find something.
Right. Yes. And
I think as a buyer, if the buyer understands that, hey, they're going to find something. It's an older house. Even in brand new houses, we find all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely.
Just understand that every house is going to have something, and once take a deep breath.
Yes.
Call us to do that final walkthrough. Call us. Take us up on that Zoom call after you read your inspection report, so that we can review the report with you. Understand that you have a good realtor who has your back and is going to negotiate for you. And it's not the end of the world. There's a lot of excitement, and I remember when I bought my first house, there's a lot of excitement that comes with it. But there's a lot of stress that comes with it as well. So if there's anything that we can do as inspectors and as realtors to try to minimize that stress level for a buyer, that's what we need to do.
Oh, I am thinking back to 19 years ago when I bought my first house, and the inspector was great. And it was so rudimentary back then. It was all on one long legal piece of paper. Checkbox,
yes.
Checkbox.
Yes.
No photos.
Yeah.
I was buying a home that was 100 years old, and it was all just coming to me, a written report, one piece of paper.
Yeah. Funny story, that's how I actually got into home inspection, is that I bought my first home. And somebody recommended I get a home inspection, and I said, no, I know enough about this. I was in construction already. I can do my own. It was on a slab. A week later, after I moved in, a pipe broke under the slab in the only bathroom. It was a one-bathroom place. It was a small place.
Pipe broke under the slab.
Under the slab.
Okay.
So we literally ended up taking up the toilet, the vanity, the tub. We dismantled the entire bathroom, our only bathroom.
Oh, wow.
A week after moving in.
Oh.
And so I got curious about what did I miss, how did I miss it, and that's how I got curious about home inspections. And I went back to school for proper schooling.
Right.
And I got my contractor's license, all of that stuff. And
so had you done a home inspection, could you have detected a pipe that's
the home inspector would have picked that up in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Because one of the first things that we do is we check the water meter out in front. And if all the faucets are off, or if it's vacant and we see the little dial on that water meter spinning, that means there's a leak somewhere. It could be a leaky toilet, it could be leaking sprinklers, or a busted pipe. In my case, it was a busted pipe, or a leaking pipe that then bust. And they would have been able to see it right there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, one thing I really want to bring up too that's really important is there's a lot of value in getting a pre-inspection these days. Whenever I have a seller who wants to sell their home and they want to get the best price, they don't want to have a bait and switch situation where someone comes in and overbids and then just tries to knock it all down and price reduce during the inspections. Get a general inspection in advance of coming to market.
Absolutely.
I say this all the time because you as a seller, if you know the health of your house, you know what's wrong, you can fix it, right?
Absolutely.
You can fix it right then and there.
Our market is shifting right now.
Right.
Everybody knows this.
Yes.
Interest rates are going up, sales are slowing down, sellers, are having their house in the market a little bit longer now. And so a little bit.
Not that bad.
A little bit, not much. We still have very little inventory, which is still pushing up prices.
Absolutely.
But it really, really behooves the seller to get that inspection, get ahead of the game, and prevent any last-minute negotiations.
Yes.
I had buyers tell me exactly that.
Yeah.
Hey, I bid at the top of the market here. I need you to find everything you can find because I want to negotiate the price down
right
now. And
nobody
as a seller,
likes that. Nobody likes that.
As a seller, if you get the inspection first, we tell you what's wrong with the property. You have two options. You can A, fix whatever you want to fix ahead of time, or B, disclose it but adjust the price at the same time. And we also, with our pre-listing inspections, you get the repair pricer report.
Yes.
Which
this
actually
is my favorite thing, you guys.
Takes our report and it creates a repair cost estimate that you can attach. So as a seller, you can say, hey, here's a report. We know what the condition of the house is. Here's all the attached estimates. So we've already adjusted the price. So there's no need to negotiate any further. Or we already fixed X, Y, and Z, and there's no need to negotiate any further. So a lot of the times a buyer will look at the report. It looks like a thorough report. Here's the estimates. Here's what it's going to cost. It's adjusted. They won't even get an inspection because they're okay with it. Everything has been disclosed and they're okay with it.
I would still, if I'm representing a buyer and the seller gives me an inspection, I would still say it's your choice. You can also do your own inspection as well from your own party that you feel, comfortable with.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but there's not going to be anything much different than a pre-listing inspection.
Most likely not,
Yeah, most likely not. And so I've seen a lot of negotiations where at the very last minute after the home inspection, especially if it's a short contingency period, they come in with these inflated
requests for repairs.
And now they're like super inflated.
Yeah.
As a seller, if you get ahead of that and you have your own estimates already, anything that comes in like twice as much as what you had already estimated, then that sets off red flags.
Absolutely. I mean, when I'm representing the seller, I say, this is your way of being ironclad going in. You can disclose off the bat. You can say, we know that this is, in need of repair, or we know that the roof is going to need this and this. So offer what you think is fair. Don't do a bait and switch with me. So
exactly.
So important.
And that just makes everything smoother for everybody. Going back to the buyers, like I said, it's a very exciting time.
Yes.
But it can also be a very stressful time. And when the inspection is done and now it's time to negotiate, the better prepared the seller is, the better prepared the buyer is. It just, it moves forward very easily.
Exactly.
And everybody's happy. Yes.
But seriously, everyone, the repair price report is like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I think you were the first one to do it that I was aware of, and now a few other companies do it.
Yes.
And it's my absolute favorite thing because then we're not just calling, different contractors or subs saying, well, how much is this going to cost them? It's much more comprehensive and thorough.
And sometimes it's really difficult to get repeat visits to the property.
Oh, yeah.
And especially if you have to send two contractors there, and now you're contacting the other parties, the seller, when is it available, and you're the whole time the clock is ticking. So
absolutely.
It's just you get the report back within 24 hours.
That's so
genius. And it gives you a pretty accurate reading on all of the costs associated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, I probably could just keep talking all day on this because I love the topic of inspections and I love construction. But this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
in.
you. Yes.
Coming into the ACME offices here. I hope you can see it. This is a
really cool office space.
Yeah, this
Yes.
is our front. This is our first office, first of several.
Nice.
But just a real quick, tell everyone a little bit about you, how they can find you.
Okay, yeah. My company name is Via Home Inspections. We've been doing this for 23 years now, going on 24 next month actually, 24 years.
Wow.
Personally, I've done about a little over 8,000 inspections. We have 3 other inspectors besides me, so scheduling is very easy.
Tony.
Tony, you met Tony too, yes. Tony and Tony, exactly,
That's right.
yes. So we cover all of Southern California, basically everywhere.
Yeah.
A few places that we don't go, like Palmdale or
Oh, okay.
places.
Big Bear? Do you go to Big Bear?
I've gone to Big Bear several
Okay.
times. I try to make a weekend out of it.
Okay.
So I'll do my inspection, and I'll take my wife with me, and then we'll spend the rest of the weekend.
Oh, wonderful.
So yeah, those are always fun.
Yeah.
At Newport, I do the same thing.
Oh, Newport Beach, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But yeah, so yeah, we'd love to work with you. My website is very easy to remember. It's inspectaproperty.com, all one word.
Inspectaproperty.com. Super easy.
Pretty easy.
And what about
Yes.
Instagram, Facebook, all of that? How do we stay connected to you?
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the, Twitter, they're all at Villa Home Inspections.
Villa Home.
Yeah.
Not
At
Via.
Villa.
I've been saying Via.
Villa or Via.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
technically in
Tomato,
Spanish it's
tomato.
Via.
I know, Via,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Okay.
I've just gotten so used to saying Villa now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. This has been
Thank
amazing.
you.
We're going to be pumping this out to
Yes.
the YouTubes later too. So
Awesome.
thanks for everyone tuning in, and hope you have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th. How do I turn this puppy off? I never know how to do it.